Welcome to Leaders in the Arena. My name is Jenny Whitener, and I'm the Executive Director for the Brock Barnes Center for Leadership at Covenant College. Leaders in the Arena is about real stories, hard-earned insights, and practical guidance from leaders who are doing the work of leadership in the arena. The Brock Barnes Center for Leadership is focused on delivering leadership capability for leaders to build their servant leadership skills and to equip them to faithfully build institutions and communities in Christ's work of making all things new. We do that through four major capabilities: the Institute for Student Leadership, the Institute for Innovation and Impact, our Institute for Executive Education, and our Wisdom and Insight series, which brings me to today's program. We're thrilled to have with us our guest today, Greg Bagby of Greg Bagby Consulting. Welcome, Greg.
Why, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so it's so exciting to have you with us today. I know I was thinking about having you on the show, and I thought, gosh, I think I've known Greg for over a decade because
Yes.
I know that we have teamed up over the years in a number of different innovation projects. You're always bringing a depth of expertise in the technology and the education space. And it's been fun to know you during that time and now to have you on Leaders in the Arena.
Why, I'm excited to be here. And yes, thinking about our time together, be it working on design thinking or working through other situations or even student competitions.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. You
it's
served
great to
as
be a part of this.
a judge in our Bright Spark Innovation Challenge for students a number of times. So thank you for being here. You know, at the beginning of our show, what I always like to do is to start off by asking our guests to talk a little bit about your leadership journey. You have an amazing background. And so maybe just do us a favor to start with just sharing a bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, originally, my first job, so to speak, was as a teacher. I was a high school slash middle school teacher, and I taught music and computers. And while at the school, the principal saw the work I was doing with my team, and they asked me if I would be interested in being an assistant principal. I just wanted to help the school. So of course I said yes. And I became an assistant principal. Then I got a role of being a principal. In the work that I was doing there, connecting and working with different folks, not just in the school district, but across the country, actually. I would go to conferences and I would connect with other leaders and I would develop platforms and programs so that I could continue working with leaders. And the district, they saw me doing this work and they asked if I would come to the district office. So I moved to the district office for Hamilton County Schools, continued my leadership platforms in a sense. During the pandemic, we were all separated, of course, and I was a district leader in one position, and I knew that there were other district leaders across the country, and we were the only ones in our district. So I went ahead and spun up a leadership group so that we would meet on Zoom once a month, just so we can, um, not that misery loves company, but just have ideas that we could bounce off of each other since there were no other instructional technology coordinators in Hamilton County. But I knew there was one in Johnson City, and I knew there was one in uh, Bangor, Maine, and I knew there was one in other places. So we would connect and we would get on Zoom once a month just to talk about our things that are going great for our schools and districts and things that weren't going so great. And recently, I stepped out of the role at Hamilton County Schools, but while there, I got to be a part of several different things, including helping write the National Educational Technology Plan, being a part of the ASU GSV, which is a great conference put on by Arizona State University and Goldman Sachs Ventures, but they've changed the GSV so people wouldn't think Goldman Sachs. Anyway, got to be an AI innovator in that space, and then I was named like top 100 educator influencers in the U.S. and all these things, and it's been really fun being able to help uh, guide teachers and leaders in the educational space over the last few years.
Fantastic. What a career. And one of the things that I love about your description of your story just then is not only were you building over these years a depth of perspective and experience and education and technology, but the way you described how you were building your network, how you were collaborating with others, you're exploring outwardly, what are innovations, what are best practices, what are others doing, and pulling those in. And so I think that's a real call out for all of us as leaders to continually be open to exploring that new frontier. And you just naturally do that in your leadership journey. So great. I'm so excited to hear about your background and about your journey. So today I had asked for us to talk a little bit more in this arena around human centered technology and AI. Big topic. It's facing
Mm.
so many leaders in every spectrum of work and education today. Well, how will AI and how is AI actually integrating into our everyday lives? And I thought that we could just start off with you talking a little bit about that. What are you seeing happening in the use of AI in education? And what does that mean for our marketplace today in education?
Well, I think AI is, well, I was going to say has been given a bad rap, but no, it's the rap that we put around it. And the thing about AI in the educational space, as well as in other spaces, it should help people do more of what humans do best: connect, create, solve problems, and make wise decisions. Inside of educational organizations, AI can reduce, of course, the low-level tasks and surface ideas, and it helps personalize the support that folks are needing, and it allows for more human interaction. I go around the country speaking on AI and training folks in AI, and I say, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to be a time saver." Yes, if it saves more time for teachers doing work or administrators doing work, what I need you to do with that time that you're saving is I need you to move that time and put it in front of the students or put it in front of the teachers. Making sure that you're being wise with the time that AI is saving. And as I look at and work with folks in some of the other industries, I think it's the same thing. We're not going to use AI to help make things better, faster, smarter, or whatever, just so that we can do more and more and more. We need to make sure that we keep the human in the loop and think of the personalization that got us to where we are. And I don't know any company that does great just because one person pushes a button and AI does all the things. It's all about the humans and making sure that, like I said, AI should be helping humans do what they do best with connection, creation, and solving problems.
I love that. I do think that there's some aspect, depending on where you are on the adoption curve for AI, if you're still in the fear mode, if you're in the excitement mode, if you're in the I can't live without it mode. But I do sense that as it's maturing in the marketplace, that people are seeing it as a companion to doing better work or to be, doing accelerated work, and that how they're able to master the technology to enable them to do greater levels of impact work is probably where we want to focus, right? Where we want to see that connection. Um, Especially in the field of education, I think there's some fear about will it impact student learning or will it impact the ability for people to just the humans to be thoughtful and be making judgments on their own. What's your thoughts around the ethical use and adoption of AI in education? What's your perspective there?
So when I think about the whole idea of adoption of AI or AI tools, the whole ethical idea starts with we need to make sure that we have a purpose before we start adopting tools. Leaders should ask things like, why are we using this? What problem does this solve? Who does this help? What risk does it create? And how do we protect people while we're preparing them? Uh, Thoughtful adoption includes a clear expectation, ongoing training, transparency, and a continuous reflection on, is the tool doing what we believe that the tool would do?
Mhm.
And in education, especially, we cannot just hand people a tool and hope for the best. We need to build literacy and responsibility and sharing understanding. talk a lot about AI literacy as well as digital literacy and making sure folks know not just the fact that, oh, I can turn it on and I can turn it off and I can do this, but how you should use the tool, not just with AI, but with any technological tool, the whole idea of the ethical use of using a tool and understanding not just the AI literacy and digital literacy and media literacy, but also that whole idea of um, digital citizenship and understanding good use of this product or good use of this tool.
Mhm. I think over time, this digital citizenship has just become a part of our everyday lives. And I like the fact that you're asking us to begin to think about the adoption and use of AI as just a continuation, right, of our digital
Mhm.
citizenship. I love that. I also think this concept about what is the purpose of engaging with AI and bringing that forward, and how do I use that as a complement to the work that I'm doing, or to create a new perspective to the work that I'm doing, is helpful for folks. I know that what we see at Brock Barnes is we have an opportunity to work not only in the academic and higher ed space with our students, but we also have an opportunity to work with business professionals and nonprofit professionals. We're seeing a really strong adoption rate, very accelerated adoption rate happening in the business world, where people are using it continuously. I mean, I see people that are saying, it's their
Yeah.
companion on the way home from work. It's their companion, using Siri, or it's a companion in most all of their everyday lives. And then, of course, as companies are weaving it into the work they're doing. So that tells me that we are just living in this age of disruption. We think about AI coming along as a companion. And like with any disruption, it requires change. And then in some aspects, the overcoming resistance to change. Can you talk a little about your experience and how AI is engaging leaders, and what that means to the disruption that they're feeling, and how they need to work to overcome some of that disruption and that resistance to change?
I think when leaders look at AI and they feel that this disruption is coming about, they need to understand that tools will come and go. We are going to have things all the time coming into our preview, into our forefront. But the thing that's not going to change are the people. We need to make sure that we're spending that time, we're putting our investment in the people. Yes, tools are great. I love technology. I use it all the time. I'm one of those who early adopter, doing all the things with AI. But also understand when I have a team of folks that they're the most important thing. Those are the elements that we need to make sure that those folks are being cared for. The tool, it will work itself out. I know that sounds silly, but it will. And the leaders who help their communities thrive during this change, they understand that it's not just about the tool and that it's always about the people. Leaders who move forward, they will stay well grounded in their purpose and listen closely and help others to make sense of what's changing when they're focusing on their people. And usually those leaders, they don't lead with panic. Those aren't the folks like, oh, well, okay, so I'm maybe stepping on some toes here, but they're not the ones that that wait to react. Those are the ones that think about, okay, something's happening, we should get ahead of this, get in front of this. Thinking back to when the pandemic was becoming a thing, I was working with some students in China, and they had shut down their schools, I believe, in January, and then I have friends in Japan who they were talking about, yeah, this is going to be bad. We're closing schools in Japan. I was like, oh no! And this was in February. Started talking with the folks at the district office saying, hey, this is going to be really bad. We need to make sure we get ahead of this, be on top of this. We started having meetings together. And then when we finally pulled the trigger on March 13th of that year, that Monday, we had packets ready to send home to students. And we had a plan for training the teachers because we were trying to get ahead of it. And that's the thing. If you stay ahead of it, you can't say ahead of everything. AI is going to change tomorrow. Case in point, I was doing a presentation on an AI tool last Friday, and they had changed up a bunch of things on Thursday. And I was like, okay, so let's just go with the flow and figure this one out. But if you could stay in front of it as much as possible, I think the leaders will have not just with AI, but all the changes. I know it's a big ask, but it helps if you're more proactive than reactive in any situation.
Absolutely. And I think what I'm hearing you say, and we all know this, that this digital advancement, whether it's AI or quantum or the different components that are coming, it is a part of our world.
Mhm.
Digital citizenship is a part of our everyday life. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that don't be afraid to lean into the disruption, right? To be purposeful, understand what it's going to do for your people, begin to engage them and exploring it. I hear a lot of the things that you're advising us to do is around the early stage of asking questions and exploration. How might we use this? How might it come along as a companion in our work? What kind of short-term kind of experiments or tests can we do about adopting it? And then being intentional about that rather than being fearful. Uh,
Mhm.
it makes me think you were talking about the pandemic. I know for years that in the educational realm, we had talked about using tools like Zoom or remote video technology. And they're like, no, that'll take us years to convert. But when we were forced to do it, right, schools were up and online many times within 2 or 3 days doing virtual training. It's not my preference, and I think for a lot of people, they prefer the in-person learning. But when we were leaning into it, giving it a try, we found ways to master it. And even today, I think in education, people are doing virtual coaching, they're doing
Mhm.
virtual follow-ups. If there's a snow day, okay, we're going to move class to virtual. So now it becomes a part of that digital toolkit that we just naturally embrace. I
Mhm.
remember there was when we were first starting to do in our innovation work, doing design thinking and innovation sprints and how we would use AI, we brought together a team of students to business professionals and said, we want to ask you to experiment today with the use of AI and brainstorming. And what we found in our experiment by leaning in and giving it a test environment is when we posed the challenge and just had everybody go right to AI, people were intrigued and they were just engaging with AI. They were just
Mm.
focused on their screen, looking at new ideas, exploring different modifications. But when we had the humans first brainstorm as a team, and then ask them to go and find new and alternative ideas with AI and then bring
Mhm.
that back to the team. That's when we created the companion approach, right? And so I think what I hear you saying is be intentional and design your approach with this application with the people involved so that you're being
Yes.
purposeful with that. How do you go on to talk a little bit about the concept that humility and curiosity play in this environment? Even in your opening today, you talked about that as part of your own leadership journey. But what kind of guidance can you give us around how humility and curiosity play into this adoption of AI?
So, oh Lord, it's hard to be humble. Oh no, that's kidding. But humility and curiosity, those things are essential. In a season where there's rapid change, no leader has all the answers, and we must be. Humility allows the leaders to admit that. And then curiosity, it gives us the courage to keep learning. And those qualities create trust. I go back to Ted Lasso when I don't know if you were a fan of the show, but this guy's in England and he's playing darts with someone invites him to play darts and he just tells folks to be curious, not judgmental. And the whole idea of making sure folks are wondering and thinking through, especially with leaders in this space. I think people respond well to leaders who say, I may not know everything yet, but I'm committed to learning, but I'm willing to learn, listening and moving forward with you. That kind of leadership, I believe, invites others instead of pushing them away.
General, I 100% with you. One of my favorite authors of all time is Adam Grant, who's a professor at the Wharton School, the University of Pennsylvania. And his book, Think Again, he's sort of got
Yes.
this concept that he calls confident humility.
Mhm.
And it's interesting how he pulls those two concepts together. I can be confident in the leadership role that I have, and with that, pair it with just a genuine aspect of humility. Is what you're saying is to be transparent and authentic. That things are advancing, or this is an area where I'm humble. I don't have all the answers, and I think
Mhm.
that level of authenticity, at that level of humility, breeds trust. People
Yes.
understand that you're being open, you're being honest. Now I understand that there are things happening and there's a frontier that we're going to, that you may not have all the answers, but I want to go with you because I
Hmm.
trust you, right? And that you're being open and curious about that and inviting your team to go with you on that. So that kind of takes me into this area around cultivating a culture of collaboration. This has been a natural part of your professional journey. You're constantly bringing teams together across the education spectrum, across the technology spectrum, collaborating, advancing knowledge. How do you do that? I mean, just kind of start at the beginning. What's your secret sauce, Greg?
Well, as I think about the whole idea of cultivating, collaborating, and bringing in folks, I think of something that I thought you were going to touch on, but you didn't quite get there. The whole idea of psychological safety, because Adam Grant talks about it in his book as well, which I love Adam Grant. I email him every now and then about something, and he doesn't say a whole lot. He just uses granted, do it, or something. I'm like, okay, dude, I understand. But he talks about psychological safety in regards to collaborating and learning within a space, and that's one of the things that I believe I wanted to see in my school as well as when I do things with others, and allowing folks to not only have the ability to feel that they can come to me with tough things, but showing them that even though I'm pulling this group together, I don't know everything. Uh, when I was a principal, I would purposefully during faculty meetings I would fail at some of the things and show them that, hey, it's okay to fail. Now, let's learn from this and help me learn from this and help me grow from this. And if you do this in the classroom, it's okay. There are many times where I would tell teachers, it's okay to fail. It's okay. It really is. And I would have to tell the students the same thing, just so that they'll have the ability or they'll have the idea that, hey, Mr. Bagby failed in front of us and he's okay with it. So if I fell in front of him or if I fell, I can go to him and talk to him about it. And I won't think that okay, he's going to yell at me or he's going to do this or do that. But it's one of those things where you allow them to see, I guess, peel back the layers of the onion so they can see
Right.
you and come to you with the questions or the problems or things that they have and allow them to feel the ability to be innovative, try something new, work on something different. I love giving teachers the go ahead to just do something that you think is amazing for students. And in the tech space, focusing on AI, what do you want it to do? Let's just try anything. It will be okay.
Well, one of the interesting things about what you're describing is that you're having the leader create an environment of exploration, of testing, right? So you're
Yes.
by the description, just the story that you just told, you're creating psychological safety, saying, hey, let's work as a team and explore how this might play out using AI, or let's explore this. So I think that you're describing how leaders can model
Yes.
in team environments an exploration of how to bring in this AI as a companion to the work that they're doing, not necessarily replacement, but explore it together, right? And that becomes open and discussion. And so maybe that first prompt, you got a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
And then second prompt, if you are more intentional and ask for specific types of sources, and maybe ask for the response to come in a table format so it's easily understood, then all of
Mhm.
a sudden we're making progress. And so we're learning together about how to use AI or how to bring it alongside us in an educational environment or even in a business environment. Are there certain kinds of practices that you encourage around this concept of experimentation? What tips do you give for folks who are just in the early stage of AI adoption?
So I think they're simple. pretty simple practices. Start with a shared purpose. What do we want to learn? What do we want to gain? And then create low risk or low hanging fruit opportunities for teachers or leaders or other folks to try new things. And then as they're trying these new things, let's celebrate the learning instead of the perfection. We want to think about the process. I know when I've worked with you, we talked about process over product and things like that. And we're not looking for perfection. Just understand that we're going to celebrate this learning that's happening in the space and then make reflection a part of that process. I know one of my good friends, actually, he was the best man at my wedding. He's goes around the world. He used to go around the world speaking on design thinking. I remember when he said prototype and fail often. And I was like, well, I don't want to fail. He's like, no, Greg, you do. You want to continually build. And when you're working with your teachers, you need to make sure, or whomever, make sure that they have that permission to prototype. People need permission to experiment without feeling like every attempt is going to be judged.
Hmm.
And I also believe in showcasing peer learning. What did they learn? What did they do? When people see colleagues trying something practical and useful, it becomes less intimidating. Uh, Change sticks better when it feels collaborative rather than mandated.
Right. I love it. I love it. And so this peer learning, I want to dig into that just a little bit because I think that's very powerful. You see a lot of big corporates now integrated peer learning into their leadership development programs or in their career maturity, programs trying to advance career advancement. And I haven't seen it that much in higher ed because there's typically that like, did you pass or fail? What was your personal grade? So can you talk a little bit about maybe this concept of peer learning in the educational realm?
I think it's one of those things that I know, thinking of my son personally, I know that when kids do group projects, that's not always the greatest thing in the world for some students. But the whole idea of peers working together in order to create something and understanding the processes they're going through. Um, Even if, okay, you take this part, he'll take this part, she'll take that part, and you try to put it all together, that allows for some of it. But if you're actually focusing on the same thing together and working together, and not only are you helping each other, I think of, so I have a son that's in, I don't know, engineering school, and he has group projects and he does things, and he's not always excited about working with some of the peers. But then my daughter, who's currently in dental school, she loves working with her peers, and she posted the thing just the other day how they're figuring out how to do impressions and how they're learning from each other and they're doing impressions on each other, and they're growing because of the work that they're doing together. And so I guess we all need to just figure out how to take impressions of each other and share in that space.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that peer learning can be so powerful and natural. You think about in the academic space, often, even before a teacher or professor assigns a project, a team project, you'll see students put together communities of learning. They're like study groups, or they know that there are people that, that are engaged in a subject matter that they really want to study or learn together with, and they'll have
Hmm.
coffee together, or they'll be working
Yes.
together in an outdoor setting or whatever, reflecting with each other on a problem or a challenge that they're experiencing. I think they naturally do it, but for some reason we put them into structured environments on peer
Hmm.
learning, especially with people they don't choose. Then all of
Yes.
a sudden we have a different environment. But I want to go back to the use of AI in peer learning.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes we can think of this companion of AI being almost, I don't know if you might call them a peer, but what we've been doing, your challenge to us to experiment and prototype, I see that a lot in the innovation and design work that we're doing, that we'll have the humans create a concept. Then we'll ask AI to prototype that into a storyboard or to craft us a short term, a scale experiment that we could go and ask questions about our assumptions related to that design. And it's very helpful. So I don't know, can we think about AI as peer learning?
I know that I've used AI as a I guess, a peer or a tutor or something that helped me in the past. And I could see if you set up specific ways that you want to use your AI, uh, that would be, yeah.
Great.
I think about questioning the AI, putting things into something like Notebook LM, and then going back to the space and understanding what you can do and how it could work with you. Yeah,
I
I
know.
see
I
it.
mean, I've seen in my own use of my own AI companion that I've asked it to stop doing all the affirmations. Oh, that was really good, Jenny. Good call out, Jenny. I'm like, no, 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 stop this, right? I want to
Yes.
know what I'm not thinking of, right? So, just a fascinating area to discuss, Greg. AI, human centered AI, and the use of technology. It is disrupting the way that we work and the way we learn. And I'm so thankful today to have time with you to share your insights. Thank you for sharing with us. And thank you for all the work that you're leading around the United States and the world and sort of helping educators embrace new technologies. I know you're on that leading frontier, and I'm glad that we call you a friend at Covenant College and the Brock Barnes Center of Leadership.
Well, I thank you very much for having me, Jenny, and I appreciate being called a friend. I've been called worse.
Well, have a great day. May God bless you.
You as well.
Bye now.
Goodbye.